Hello, weird angle, ring light. I know that's a little distracting, but it's nighttime, got home from work. The lighting in here sucks. Like, I don't know, another video I did in here and just looked like crap. So I need the light for the video to look decent, but that comes at the expense of my light blocking, polarized, whatever glasses looking like I'm crazy. Ooh. Anyways, it's Tuesday. Feels like it should be a Friday with how much work and stuff I've done. Since the last video, what have I done? On Saturday, we went to the Ren Fair. It was great. It was exhausting. I got some cute stuff. I got these earrings that I'm wearing. Very beautiful. I will put the link to the shop down in the description. They look like chainmail scale, and they're part of their Pride collection. So love them. They dangle really nicely. I also got this little axolotl friend. I unfortunately did not get the name of this shop. I don't think I saved their card or anything, so just a little crocheted little axolotl friend. That's all. Just little legs, little things here. So that's a cutie pie. What have I done? What have I read since? I finished Floating Hotel by Grace Curtis. I really enjoyed this. I'm not going to talk about it now because I just want to wait for my wrap up. I want to get my thoughts together and do the wrap up at the end of the week. I started and DNF'd The Warden by Daniel M. Ford. I picked this up on discount when Barnes & Noble near my work was closing. I think I bought it for like $10 when it was brand new hardcover. I was curious. It's kind of like been comped a bit like Twin Peaks with wizards. I just did not like those vibes. It was just a little too slow, a little too quirky for me. I disliked how the character was constantly talking out loud to herself and just thinking things so constantly. It was constant because it's a DNF. Read the synopsis. Wizard gets assigned to Podunk little town in the middle of nowhere and where people are scared of her even though she has to protect them, and she gets to know the population and stuff happens. It was I was bored. I didn't enjoy the writing, and unfortunately it's a DNF and I'll be unhauling this. So I finished Naked in Death by J.D. Robb. That is another one that I am going to need to get my feelings together on. A lot of thoughts about that one. Very, very of its time in terms of the writing, but I enjoyed it enough that moving on to my currently reading, I've got Glory in Death. The ring light. Oh, fancy. I've moved on to book 2, Glory in Death. They're easy, compelling, and I will talk about that more when I get to my actual wrap up and talk more about Naked in Death in that wrap up. What else I'm currently reading? Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant. I'm almost done with it. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's just super compelling, just keeps moving forward. It's very sci-fi thriller in the vein of Michael Crichton and others of its ilk. I will probably get this finished before the weekend and definitely talk about it when I do my full wrap up later in this video. And then the reason that I did this clip now is because I got some books. Well, first of all, I had a library hold come in, and then when I was at the library, I was browsing, and there was one of those like lucky day shelves where it's like you're lucky to get a popular book that's available at the moment. So I grabbed one there. Then I thought, why not just look for a couple of books that I have in like when I'm watching videos and scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, I take screenshots and I just go through that album and look at books and, see, look them up later. And a couple of those were available. So got my dopamine hits when I've been trying not to buy books, even though I do have a package of books that I bought, but we'll talk about that later. The lucky one was Come and Get It by Kiley Reid. Bethany at Beautifully Bookish Bethany really loved this, so I'm going to give it a try. Even though I haven't read her first book, it didn't really sound like something I was interested in. This does, so I'm going to give this a try. And then Razorblade Tears. This has come up over and over in the last couple of years amongst the booktubers that I watch, and I think I'm finally just gonna dive into this. I think I'm ready to finally dive into S.A. Cosby and see what he's about. And then Ashley, this is your fault. My friend Ashley did a top 10 favorite thrillers, and They Never Learn. I think this was her number one favorite thriller, so I saw it was available and I had to pick it up, so I have that. When am I going to read these? When I also have like a Hugo and Nebula reading project that I want to do, and also I was going to read a bunch of manga that I also have out from the library. I don't know, but I know my book renewals have come and gone, and I've renewed everything, so we're gonna see how it goes. The reason that I started this video, I got a package. I ordered oh my god, Neon Hemlock is a small press, and they do a lot of speculative fiction, and I was turned on to them because a couple years ago, Premi Mohammed's novella And What Can We Offer You Tonight made the Nebula shortlist. You know, I borrowed it, loved it, and then I looked more into Neon Hemlock and put a couple of books on my TBR. And then they had openings for, you know, review copies. So I signed up, got accepted, got a couple of review copies, and then I ended up reading Skin Thief by Susan Palumbo last year. And it ended up being one of my just absolute favorite things that I read last year. So I'm so glad that I have found this journey with Neon Hemlock. So I was looking on their website a week or two ago, and they had a sale where I could get 3 novellas for, I think it was like $12.99. So I just enjoy supporting small presses, supporting a press that I've liked, supporting a press who gave me review copies. So I got my handy dandy cute little box cutter here. They're wrapped so nicely. I'm just gonna very lightly cut this paper. Okay, we're unboxing. This is my first actual unboxing on the channel. Okay. Oh, they're so small and lovely. Okay. Cute. Okay, so let me do this. So here they are. 3 little novellas. The first is The Necessity of Stars by E. Catherine Tobler. This, I think I have decided to read for something in my R Fantasy bingo. I'm working on that video. It's going to come up at some point, but you will see this come up. I'm going to read this relatively soon. This is sci-fi, speculative-ish. So, let's see. The appearance of the alien Tura in the shadows of diplomat Brion Hemmerly's garden raises new questions about the world's decline. Perhaps together, Tura and Brioni will find a way forward. So, aliens, alien human. Oh, sorry, ... If only Brioni can remember it. So, alien human contact, something's going on. Brioni has some little bit of amnesia. So, that's The Necessity of Stars. Then we have Empire of the Feast, a lovely black and red cover by Bendi Barrett. This one is Meet Riverson. In Empire of the Feast, we awaken with Riverson, 32nd ruler of the Stag Empire, as he attempts to govern without the memories of his previous lives. To survive the ever-sharpening gears of war, he will need to mend the political schisms threatening to tear his empire apart while maintaining the erotic rituals holding off the eldritch horror known only as the Rapacious. Oh my god. I mean, I kind of knew vaguely what this was about, but yes, sci-fi, political machinations, eroticism, eldritch horror, yes, okay. that is actually way more interesting than I realized. I'm so down. And then the last is Stone and Steel by Eboni Dunbar. Ebony Dunbar. That's beautiful. Let's kind of get a little bit more. I know the light kind of sucks, but really beautiful. And this says, when General Aliyah returns to her city triumphant, she expects to find the people of Titus prospering under the rule of her queen and lover, the beautiful stone mage Odessa. Instead, she finds a troubling imbalance in both the citizens' well-being and Odessa's rule. Aaliyah must now rely on all her allies, old and new, to do right by the city that made her. Cool. So, queer love story. I think these all seem kind of queer. I wouldn't be surprised if they were. So, just so excited, and I'm very excited to support Neon Hemlock. They're coming out with some very interesting stuff, and I just can't wait to read these. I probably will read all 3 of these pretty soon. I'm just so excited to read these. So, thank you to Neon Hemlock for coming out with some interesting stuff. Thank you for having me as a reviewer in the past, and I've just been really thrilled to support them. So that I got that package. That was the reason I decided to sit down in this video, because you know, you get a package, you want to open it and share. I will have more to talk about later this week. We are going to Disney on Saturday, so I'll probably sit down on Sunday, and that is when you will next see me, hopefully coherent, not exhausted. I mean, it's Disney, I'll be exhausted, but hopefully coherent with a couple more books to talk about, and I will see you guys in that clip. I forgot to mention, I also went to the LA Festival of Books on Sunday. I didn't mention it because it was mostly chill. I didn't do a lot. I really just wanted to go and experience it. So I took the train into LA to the USC campus. Thankfully, it was a chill day. There wasn't a lot I wanted to do, so I bought 0 books. Applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I was expecting to buy something, but nothing really caught my eye. None of the signings really pulled at me, so I didn't buy any books for signings. But it was really cool. I'm gonna insert some footage here with some of like the just kind of what the vibes were. My favorite thing was that they had an actual like big crossword. They could we had a magic marker on it, and there was just a group of people solving the crossword, which I got to do a part of, and that was pretty fun. And then the only thing I bought, which is now on my little bottle, is this cute little frog. And his book says, read it, you know, like how frogs say ribbit. Yeah. I will put the shop that I bought this frog from in the description box below. Hello, another weekly reading wrap up. I have read some stuff this week. I have a lot of thoughts. I thought I would have some time to gather my thoughts on everything, but not. So we went to Disneyland yesterday, and I am very tired. I am very stiff and sore, but we're here. We're gonna talk about books. Since my last video, I have been reading the same thing. I've been reading Floating Hotel, and I finished it pretty soon after I did my last video last week. So I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars by the end. Everything that I was talking about last week goes. It is sort of in the vein of Becky Chambers, where you have this hotel and you're following different characters, but I think the scope of it is a little broader than what you would have seen in something like the first of her spaceship books. I'm completely blanking on the first book, but where you have the crew and you have the characters and you have more of like a cozier feeling with the characters. This sort of is in that same area, but I think it expands a little bit in terms of having a greater interesting sort of plot to it. So essentially, what starts out as this is an interesting hotel, look at these interesting characters, it really slowly, as you meet each character, builds up on this grander plot where there is this far future world is being ruled, universe is being ruled by this dictator emperor, and there is this person called the Lamplighter who writes revolutionary texts about the world and the emperor, and the emperor's police are trying to find this person, and they believe that the person lives on this hotel just because of reasons. So we don't get like a distinct narrative following one character. We follow various characters that are on the hotel for various reasons, and the plot unfolds, and we get more and more of the plot itself as we meet more characters down the line. But in the first, I would say first third to first half of the book, it is very cozy-esque, learning these characters, learning more about the hotel itself. And then we start to build up on the plot. Like, you get little bits of the plot. At the center of the story is Carl, the hotel manager, who the book opens up with him as a boy. He winds up on the hotel, and he ends up living on the hotel and has a job in the hotel since he is like a little boy. And this is like 40 years later, so he's like a 50-year-old man, and he's the hotel manager. And of course, the book ends from Carl's perspective as well. I enjoyed this a lot. I think this may not be for everybody, but I would suggest you at least give it a chance, give it a try, because I think this needs some attention, this needs some love. I really enjoyed it. I think if you enjoy Becky Chambers and what Becky Chambers does, I think you should give Grace Curtis a chance. She's in that same area. I found this so interesting. I really liked the character work. I liked how the story built up, and I enjoyed it so much. I know I only gave it 4 stars because I think part of the character writing, the fact that we are getting different characters and we're not really focusing in on a core group of characters, kind of like did a bit of a separation for me. Like, it felt like a step back from the plot and the character work and the emotion of what you would want to feel for like this hotel. And like, so it's not quite like, it almost hits that found family dynamic, but not quite, because of the range of characters we follow. So that's why it's not quite a 5. You know what, 4.5, because that was not enough to detract a whole star. So 4.5, but even though it's a 4.5, it absolutely, for now, it's, you know, it's April, it is on the top of my list for favorite books of the year, and it's going on that favorite shelf right now. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put it there right now. So she's gonna sit there, and you can look at her while I talk about other books. Okay, next that I finished was Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant. Essentially, what this was doing was essentially a sci-fi thriller in the vein of like Michael Crichton or disaster movies. Like, this gave sci-fi, you know, SYFY TV channel disaster thriller just, you know, a little better quality than those movies. But I love those movies, and this was giving that 4 stars. I docked it a star essentially because it was doing what it was doing. The character work was interesting. It does that thing where it follows a collection of characters, and while you do have like your main character, your main cast that is going to survive, it does follow a bunch of other characters, and then it goes into scenes where you meet a character for the first time and then they immediately die, and that happens quite a few times. So in that way, it felt like it was kind of comfortable that way in terms of being a disaster movie of a book. And once I realized that is what this book was, I enjoyed it. Like, I was into it. I enjoyed it. If you go into this expecting like a normal kind of plot-driven, character-driven narrative, I think you're going to be disappointed. So essentially, this is about a cast of characters who are going on a expedition where years before, this company, Imagine Entertainment, who to me they kind of were like the Sci-Fi Channel, sent out an expedition on a like mockumentary to look for mermaids, and the whole ship disappeared. Everyone presumed dead. There was some footage, but people think it was fake, whatever. Now, the company is again sending a bunch of people out to find out what happened to that first ship. And we follow our main character essentially is the younger sister of a woman on the first ship who was like the videographer. She was the reporter-ish for them. So she's going to find out what happened to her sister. Then there's other characters who are going for science. There are all kinds of like oceanographers, biologists, all kinds of people who kind of were like, oh, we're going to search for mermaids, but they don't really believe they're going to find mermaids, but they like the science. They're hoping to get more science and be funded. And We have like a character, a doctor, who her whole life she's said mermaids are real, and she's going on this trip to prove that, but she didn't go on the first one. So just a bunch of different characters. We follow a couple who are like bloodthirsty poachers, and they're there for like as to be like the heavy guns to protect them if these mermaids turn out to be real, and if everything they saw in the previous video of like all the murderous mermaids were real. They were despicable people, but their characterization was actually really good. I really enjoyed their sections, the bits of the narrative that we got from them. But this was compelling. It did all the typical disaster movie plot beats. Our main characters do heroic things for stupid reasons. You know, we follow characters who were terrible people before they die. We follow characters who are good people before they die. We follow characters who were just there and then they die. So yeah, I enjoyed this. It's a disaster movie of a book, and for what it was really enjoyable, very compelling. I read it pretty quickly, and it was fun. 4 stars. It was fun. Okay, next, I'm going to talk about Naked in Death and Glory in Death by J.D. Robb, so books 1 and 2 of the In Death series. I blew through these, and essentially that's because I think, despite these being sort of like romantic suspense mystery thrillers set in a speculative future, sci-fi speculative future with that lens, these essentially hit the same plot beats that urban fantasy does for me. You have your very stoic, hardened main female character, and Eve is very hardened. Like, she is essentially similar to a lot of main male characters that you see on cop TV shows. She's very removed from her emotions and everything around her. She takes on a lot of the responsibility of catching killers and stuff when she gets a case, essentially because of the trauma that she's experienced in her past. The only self-worth she has is being a perfect cop and being a great police officer. So it's kind of hard to read from Eve's perspective in that way when this is so 90s. These first 2 books were written in the 90s. The series started in the 90s. It's very hard to read from that perspective when I've read from this perspective so much. So I had to remind myself that this is the 90s. This is very early on in this sort of genre thriller, and she's a hard character to read. The other main male character is Rourke, her love interest. I was shocked at how quickly the romance moved, because the books are, I think book 58 was the most recent one this year or last year, and they're like just together very quickly. In books 1 and 2, at the end of book 2, he proposes, and I started book 3 already, and they're actually like doing wedding preparations, so like that was wild to me how quickly that romance moved, but it was the 90s. So yeah, so the familiar plot beats, the familiar character beats. Oh, and speaking of that, Rourke is essentially just like any other alpha male character that you get in urban fantasy or paranormal romance, except instead of him being like a werewolf or a lion shifter like in Kate Daniels, he is just a billionaire hot man. So he's very cold and alpha, and very domineering and possessive, but he loves Eve for some reason. Like, he's so drawn to her. Same plot beats. Moving on from the romance, the mystery itself of the first book and the second book, like, they weren't compelling. In the first book, the sexual violence was absolutely insane. I don't know the reason why so much of the sexual violence was included on page. I don't know if that was like an aspect of the 90s. Was Nora Roberts like trying to do this to make her seem like very less Nora Roberts, and like, was this a J.D. Robb thing, like make this so gratuitous and super dark to completely remove J.D. Robb as a pen name from Nora Roberts? I don't know. I do know that 95% of the sexual violence that we get on page did not have to be on page. And there were quite a few characters in the first book, in Naked in Death, who had trauma visited on them as children. And we find out that Eve actually has trauma, child sexual assault trauma. And even though it's not like incredibly detailed, there is enough detail of this child sexual abuse that did not have to be on page. Like, I'm sorry, it just did not. We can get the same emotional impact of the trauma that these characters went through, Eve included, without some of the detail that was included. I just, period. Like, that's just how I feel about that. So, yeah. Just no reason for it to be on page. Just no reason. And book 2, so book 1 was very much sexual trauma visited upon women by an angry man. Book 2 was the same thing. The sexual component was removed, but there was still misogynistic male violence being visited upon women. And why? Maybe this was Nora Roberts working out some issues, like maybe she was trying to work on her own dealings with misogynistic people and misogyny in publishing, maybe misogyny in her life. Maybe she was trying to work it out here. Don't know. But I just, at reading these 20 years after they were written, like I can understand that these were written in the 90s and maybe this wasn't as prevalent in this type of mystery thriller, but it's hard to swallow that, you know, today. It's hard to swallow that 20 years later. So it is hard, like, I understand, but it's also hard to read 20 years later. Like, why? I just keep asking why, then I have to remind myself it was the 90s when she wrote this. So but the mystery in book 2 sucked. It sucked. A lot of the book was about Eve and Rourke and their issues and how they both suck at communication. Like, it was really hard watching them. Like, and this is supposed to be romantic. Like, this is supposed to be a big romance where they're like two hard people who fall in love with each other. Like, they sucked. Eve sucked on her own. Rourke sucked on his own. They sucked as a couple, but they get together in the end. Like, okay, I don't care. Cool, they're gonna get married. Whoop-de-doo. And yet here I am continuing the damn series because it's compelling, because it is comfortable to me in the way that it is following all these regular urban fantasy, paranormal romance beats. So it's just super easy to read, super compelling. Nora Roberts, you know, there's a reason why she's written, like, I don't know, 300 freaking books in her lifetime. She's good. She can bang out a very compelling, easy to read narrative. And I am continuing. I'm hoping that book 3, Immortal in Death, I started it while waiting, and you know, in a few chill out times I needed to have at Disneyland, but it was very hard to get into that world in the middle of Disneyland with screaming children around you. So I'm hoping that the mystery in book 3 is less about misogyny and men hating women and a little bit more interesting. Just a little bit more interesting would do me so good. So that's the In Death series. I'm continuing. I gave book 1 3 stars and book 2 2.5 stars. Despite that, I am continuing because, again, they do feel like comfort reads in terms of the tropes and the type of narratives and the type of character work that I'm used to. So yeah, what can I say? So yeah, that is everything that I've read and finished and DNF'd. Currently reading, like I said, I've started book 3 in the In Death series, Immortality and Death. I haven't picked up a new physical book yet. I'm not sure what I want to read. I do still have all those library books. You saw the library books that I just got in the previous clip. And yet it's that thing where I have so many choices that I am kind of paralyzed in terms of figuring out what I want to read next. So these were all the books that I got last week, as you already saw. And that will do it for this week. I will catch you next time. Let me know what you're reading. What was the best thing you read this week? Give me any recommendations. I'm always up for adding too many books to my TBR that I am way more optimistic about getting to than I think reality will let me. So I will catch you guys soon.